that gap.
Yes.
You are providing that pivotal gap, so that really makes you stand out from all other NGOs as far as my experience goes.
Yes, I actually go into the homes also of the patients.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
In this day of stay-at-home and work from home, home has never meant more than it does today. Whether you're looking to buy, rent, or build your new home, now is the time to get going. Gittins & Gittins real estate agents are here to take you to that place of your dreams. Let us take you home. We'll help you find that rental to rest along the way, or journey with you to find your home destination. Investors and commercial enterprises too, call us and we'll walk the distance to place your business in just the right location. Owners, leave the headaches to us. We'll find your tenants or buyers while you stay at home. We'll even manage your property at your bidding. Anything real estate, come home to Gittins & Gittins Real Estate. Call us at 760-3280 or 747-1220 or visit us at 16 Fifth Street in Woodbrook.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
WESN.
Good morning, and as we have seen the conclusion of the World Cup, I guess you could say it's fitting that Mr. Warner, around the same time, got good news for his matter concerning his extradition hearing for the U.S., ironically, given that it is about FIFA or situations revolving around the event that is the World Cup. I'm Sean Michael Small. This is Talking Point. I don't know if you experienced the quake this morning. Not entirely. I myself was now waking up. I did a quick Google search sometime earlier this morning. Saw that there was one nearby Tobago. I'm not entirely sure how true that is, or maybe I was just imagining things. I just thought, well, it wasn't 7, according to the information online. It wasn't at some point anything. Thank God. Well, God is still a Trini. And I guess, you know, you could question, is God a Trini for Mr. Warner? Or was there perhaps maybe a certain degree of political convenience now that we are so far removed from when the initial situation that led to his, I guess you could say, removal from his post in FIFA, that led to the arrest of multiple individuals in FIFA, in or by the United States. And of course, that led to a decade-long extradition hearing that the judge finally said enough is enough. Mr. Warner's rights were trampled on. His constitutional rights were breached through the conduct of the Office of the Attorney General during the extradition proceedings, and the judge ordered that the case be permanently halted. Which, on some level, because I've seen the commentary by a colleague, Dr. Sheikh Mohammed, who's been on the show multiple times. He calls it a deserving victory, which I guess in many ways you could say it is. And he also wanted to point out, look, I know that he's associated with certain things, certain allegations, certain suspicions. You can't necessarily speak about the potential bad without looking at what we saw as the good, which to some extent is valid when Mr. Warner was a minister at the very least. I can't necessarily speak to his time as a vice president in FIFA. And one could argue he was a player in a corrupt system. So, and he used his position at times to help Trinidad and Tobago. And I wouldn't necessarily to help Trinidad and Tobago in any sort of sleazy or unethical way, at least, you know, from my perspective, which is very limited. I was way too young and even less into sports then than I am now. So you can't necessarily just look at the man, look at the allegations that led to this whole extradition process and say, corrupt, guilty or something. The flip side to it is this, on some level, I don't necessarily think this exonerates him. The judge is pointing to the conduct of the Office of the Attorney General, not necessarily the merits of the case. So on some level, it's a technicality. It's not a technicality caused by Mr. Warner, which is why I could still agree with Dr. Mohammed and say, well, he deserves potentially, right? I haven't necessarily gone through the merits of the argument that the judge used to justify her ruling. But you had those questions with regards to this whole situation, right? Particularly, of course, within the last however many years, an opposing administration, I guess you could say. And if the Office of the Attorney General did anything that it should not have done, which again is foolish because look at where we reach now. On some level now, if the current government did similar actions. Now granted, with this ruling, third-party observers would still have the right to criticize the current government if the current government engaged in similar behavior. But would the PNM potentially have that right? One could argue, at least I won't disagree with the public if the public says no. But unfortunately for Mr. Warner, and this goes back to other situations where I've said similar things, he is not necessarily exonerated from the allegations against him that started the whole thing. We technically did not get a final determination on that. Now at this point, given his age and given how long ago it was, and the fact that on some level it didn't really cause any miscarriage of justice for us. And for the most part, the world has moved on. America just hosted the World Cup. I would argue that outside of the American World Cup song, every other aspect of America hosting the World Cup was a smashing success, it seems. I haven't necessarily got into, right now a lot of the headlines are more about the whole controversy of Argentina's behavior after the match, right? Doesn't seem as though as a host nation, and there's probably nitpickings about the American stadiums and this and that and the other, but for the most part, the public's response to America being a host nation was very high. At this point, I don't know if it's worth it for America to be like, oh no, we still need to settle this thing with Jack Warner. Well, what's the point? We are far removed for whatever he may or may not have done to the detriment of the United States being a host nation, right? So I think no one really necessarily cares to see it through in a general sense, or there's no real incentive to see it through. I could speculate further with regards to the political convenience of the moment, but that would disparage the judge, so it's a very weird situation. And on some level, again, yeah, part of this I do wonder if the length of time our courts take to see a matter, I do wonder if, to what extent did that have a part to play, right? Not indirectly, but directly. And this is probably not going to be the last time we will have important cases on some level, the ruling, the resolution, the final judgment, the determination to say, because remember, these rulings will then inform us moving forward what is right and wrong, what is good and bad, what is acceptable and unacceptable, and what is the minutiae within all of that, the details to make those rulings, to then inform us on the smaller points, the finer points of the issues, which potentially can be extracted and utilized in isolation if necessary when you have similar situations but not the same. All of those things now we do not have when cases sputter out for whatever reason, right? And this also now, I'm not necessarily examining the conduct of the Office of the Attorney General, particularly during the stewardship of the PNM in the last 10 years, in the sense of I'm not here to debate if they did something or what they did. I'm just going with the ruling. And the point about it is to say, this is where, again, don't politicians potentially ask the question, how will this look? Is this going too far? And in this case, it's not how will it look to the public, but how will it look to a trial judge, right? How will my actions look officially to the court of law in this country? And on some level, I don't think politicians really think about these things, despite the fact that so many of them are lawyers. And let's not forget, this judge is basically saying that the behavior of the Office of the Attorney General, whose line minister, I mean, that is the one position where it's like, yes, we know that it's not going to be a geologist or a medical doctor or a former teacher or a media personality being the Attorney General. It's going to be an attorney. So you would think, someone who knows the law should, know the law, know how the courts will respond to certain things. Just because you're the Attorney General doesn't mean that all of a sudden the courts of the land have to defer to you. Ironically, you have to be potentially even more cautious, because in theory, the courts of the land are parts of the checks and balances on the executive and the legislature. And we do not have a legislature that can be a check on the executive, and that makes the role, that function that the courts carry, even more important, even more emphasized. The judge rejected Mr. Warner's claim that the state had engaged in a deliberate conspiracy to mislead the courts. She concluded that the matter evolved over time, with the initial certificate being issued in line with long-standing practice. However, once it became known that there was no separate specialty arrangement, the state failed to correct the mistaken impression created before the High Court, Court of Appeal, and ultimately the Privy Council. That failure, she ruled, resulted in constitutional breaches. Yeah, I vaguely now kind of remembering the whole, what was promised, and it seemed real shaky, which, this is the thing, I do wonder if also, one, we don't necessarily think, our politicians don't think, how will our actions be interpreted, right? And it seems as though they're more than happy to discredit, discount, disregard the public opinion on the matter. Until it's time for the election, and then they want to, you know, they want, oh, we're the best thing since sliced bread, vote for me. But, you know, the time period in between is like, you have an opinion? Peasants do not care about the peasants' opinions do not matter to lions and to leaders and to rulers. So, but there's also, on some level, I think, and I don't know if this is because of the politicians or the public service and some public servants, or a combination of both, or if there's another factor at play. But on some level, we tend to be, I don't know, play fast and loose with regulations. We tend to try to approach formal proceedings at times with too much informality. Line ministers, sometimes, not always, approach their responsibilities almost like if they are not just the person in charge in a public office, but rather the person in charge in a for-profit enterprise, potentially even acting as if they're the owner of said for-profit enterprise, and they could do what they want when they're ready, because they're the boss. It's almost like if they don't understand, no, you don't own that ministry. You don't have the right to just do whatever you want. And it's not as though, it doesn't have to be large-scale corruption, but rather it's how you handle, again, the finer details. How you kind of take it for granted that, yeah, man, we'll sort it out. Like if it's two tradies kind of making a handshake deal, a verbal arrangement. It's like these official proceedings, you need to cross your T's and dot your I's. Hell, you need to cross your T's, dot your I's, cross your I's, dot your T's. You need to do everything, be redundant, go overboard. Put in maximum effort to ensure that all of the mundane aspects are properly done ahead of schedule. I mean, think about it. Our public sector will force the bulk of us into all kind of, you gotta have this form, and you gotta come here, and you gotta do this, and then go in this line, and all kind of processes, and make sure you have your documentation, or then you gotta go home to come back with it. All kind of things that you have to get all your ducks in a row to do what arguably will be mundane transactions. And in a lot of the cases, the public servants themselves are very much cognizant of the fact that some of these processes are ridiculous, but it's not up to them. You know, so they would pity us, they would have mercy on us, they would try to help us out, but it's not up to them on some level. They only have so much leeway. The ones that actually care, the ones that don't care, of course, they'll be like the Registrar General office in Tobago a couple of years ago. That's what we have to go through. Why does it seem as though politicians are so used to bypassing the system that now it's almost like if they when you're dealing with the courts on an extradition matter, you can't just bypass the system. You can't just take the easy road. You can't just, you know, well, I mean, do the thing and it shouldn't be that hard. No. That's one of the weird things where you see clues where our politicians are extraordinarily disconnected from our population. Extraordinarily disconnected. They don't really understand. When you look at them, when you look at the cars they drive and the clothes they wear, and when you look at how they speak on certain issues, in certain aspects of life, they are oblivious. And I know this to be true because the reality is, and people might not be aware of this, in certain aspects of life, we are all oblivious. The difference is, I could be oblivious to what's going on in San Fernando. I could be oblivious to what's going on in you know, 2 streets down from me. I don't represent an area of people. I wasn't elected to be responsible for anything. I'm a private citizen. It's not my job to be nosy and to know the happenings of all the streets in my area and what's going on with all of my neighbors on my street, on the next street, and so on and so on. What's going on with this pothole? What's going on with that situation? It's not my job. I wasn't elected to nothing. We are all oblivious to aspects of life in our country, right? Depending on where we live, what interests us, who we interact with, we may get some information, we may not. It's not our job to macro everybody's business. Now, in terms of the country, in terms of the public welfare, in terms of things like standard of living and so on, one would think it is a politician's job to macro that. But the problem is there's a lot of little aspects of the system in Trinidad and Tobago. And you could argue this is true around the world. But we ain't talking about around the world right now. Talking about Trinidad and Tobago. There are a lot of aspects of the system, minor aspects that we take for granted, that we might not even realize are part of the system, that are broken on our interactions with politicians, in how they get their feedback, in how they gather information about the immediate world around them, the part of the world that they are responsible for, that is to say, this country. Because one of the things is, you now, say you're a young Stuart Young, you come into St. Anne's, never went up for election in the House before. You've been given this seat, a P&M stronghold, and you're trying to introduce yourself to the people. So you go and you literally do that. You physically go and introduce yourself to the people. And this seems to be a relatively common pattern, where a politician is new or relatively new. They go out there, meet everybody, meet as much people as they can. All of the young politicians do this, right? The first time. At some point, you can't find them. You just can't. And this is not a Stuart Young thing. This is not a P&M thing. This is a politician thing. Because what happens is, not everybody's going to agree with you. Not everybody's going to have a positive interaction. And most people don't know how to deal with that. And that includes our politicians. Most people don't know how to deal with people who don't like them, don't want to like them, don't want to interact with them, potentially hate them, and they don't necessarily know how to deal with it constructively. And at some point, the exercise of engaging with the public, they don't know what they're doing, so they stop. To be fair, it's not as though there's a lot of institutions that's going to teach you how to be a politician. You know, there's even less teaching material than, say, how to be a parent. But rather than demanding those who want to go up for high office in this country figure it out, we just kind of let it slide. Because in part, when you look at Mr. Warner and the areas where he was successful, and in many ways, one could argue, his success is not too dissimilar on a very basic level to Gary Griffith's success as Commissioner of Police, in the sense that Mr. Warner was present. Mr. Warner, at the very least, made himself look as though he was available to deal with whatever the issue was. Mr. Warner, at the very least, made himself look as though he was working. And on some level, when you're going out in the field regularly, I mean, if you want to fake it, that's a lot of effort to faking it. So I have a hard time thinking that it was totally disingenuous. I do. That's way too much effort to try to fool people. Usually, they'll say they do something, they're really just hiding in their office, in their air-conditioned office. They're just remaining comfortable. They're not going to go out and watch whatever from the road or whatever. And I've heard stories with regard, because a lot of people say, Gary Griffith, when he was commissioner, or he would want to hog the limelight or whatever. I have heard a couple of anecdotal stories where that was far from the truth, or at least there were situations not published where he was in the field, kind of like trying to get things fixed on a very basic, simple level. And that's the thing. You saw individuals who are not necessarily always going to be locked in their ivory tower. And even if you want to say, well, that's not everything, that doesn't mean, that's not going to just automatically make them the best at their job. The point is, it was an attribute that the public responded to positively in both cases, and strongly too. And yet, for the life of me, think about it. When you see the positive react positively to a public official's behavior strongly, no one tries to emulate it. I guess you have to ask why. So on some level, it's not that I'm happy for Mr. Warner or I'm sad for Mr. Warner. I do feel that this whole situation is rather frustrating because it really, on some level, was a miscarriage of justice. But to me, it really comes down to the fact that procedurally, it shows that we are not that good at certain things. We have allowed ourselves to actually, how to put this? We have allowed certain skills or certain proficiencies, certain capacities of our nation, of our government, not UNC cabinet, but now looking at it from a wider lens, government, the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We have allowed certain important functions and our ability to carry them out to kind of just decay, seemingly, over time. We're losing it. And on some level, if we can't do things like this, and I'm not saying Mr. Warner should have been extradited. Again, it's not about whether he should have been extradited or he should not have, but rather it's about, look, this kind of looks unprofessional. Kind of looks like we don't know what we're doing. Kind of looks like we're incapable. And here's the thing. I'm sure that if some UNC politician sees this, their response is going to be, well, yeah, that's under the PNM. No, on some level, a lot of these functions comes from the public service. And the parts of the public service where they're doing their job, they have good supervision, there's someone to hold them to account, and you have people that understand the duty of care for the nation by having these kinds of jobs. Yeah, those areas in public service works out fine, great, perfect. But now we have to question, on some level, what about the areas where, the proficiency ain't all there? The sense of responsibility ain't all there either. And one of the main culprits for that is the lack of accountability going up the chain of command. And the chain of command stops at the head of the government. Now, one could argue the previous administration contributed to any of these issues. Yes, right? But at the end of the day, this is beyond the politics now of which side is in power, but rather potentially, because you kind of see it in other aspects of our society, of our government, where you kind of see some of the same feelings or the same uninspiring performance rear its head, in part because you have the same public servants, the same technocrats who it wasn't necessarily about what the former minister did or did not do, but rather what the ministry under him did or did not do. That hasn't necessarily changed wholesale. And of course, there's a catch, right? If the UNC started swapping out ministry personnel, which they might have, and we just didn't hear about it because they've done so in a couple anecdotal cases that I know of. If they started doing that with ministries, they might be criticized for it, and it might be rightful criticism because the appearance, the implications, all of those things aren't necessarily good. But one of the things that I was hoping for was greater accountability, and I thought I saw a glimmer of that. I saw a glimmer of that when the lady was kidnapped, and you saw the entire national security apparatus in one night seemingly respond in a timely manner. And there was a boat, there was a Coast Guard boat out to intercept the vessel that carried her. And it made me think, oh, somebody got the Coast Guard operational again. This is a good thing, I think. Now, we don't necessarily know if the Coast Guard was working in the PNM. It's just that everything that we heard implied that the answer effectively might not have been in reality, but on all practical levels, the answer to that is no. When it mattered, they tended to be nowhere to be seen. And now in this case, it mattered. They were available. They showed up. They did their job. Other aspects of national security, including the police, that night did their job. And it made me think, oh, is this a sign of more accountability in national security? Could this be a sign of more accountability in the public sector? And the answer, at least for the last part there, is not necessarily to no. So that's the thing. The judge didn't say the Attorney General. She said the Office of the Attorney General, right? On what level are the happenings of the various ministries of government under the complete sole discretion and due to the decisions and of solely the responsible of the line minister? They have a lot of say and a lot of sway and a lot of formal and informal authority. Don't get me wrong. But how many ministries do we have people that are honestly trying to do their job well, and how many of them have resigned themselves to the fate? They're not necessarily bad workers, but they're workers in a bad situation, and they basically resign themselves to the gods of irony and malicious compliance. Well, you know, you told us not to do anything without approval, so we're doing nothing without approval. Why are you now arguing that we haven't put the pedal to the metal to get things done? Did that happen with the Blue Waters lease? Why did it take 10 years and then look to sort it out days before the election? That makes no sense. And this is the funny part where the politicians don't understand. The lack of accountability and the lack of transparency works against them. Because for the most part, people are not going to say, oh yes, the public service dragged their feet. They're going to say, why is the PNM doing this last minute? Why didn't, if this was above board, why did you sort this out? You had 10 years. This was an issue that you met, not that popped up in the middle of your time in office. This was an issue that you met. You had 10 years to sort this out. And by not doing so, look at the mess now that we're in. On some level, one could argue that how this lease situation for Blue Waters was handled, and you can potentially lump the People's Partnership in this as well, which makes the current situation even more ironic and questionable, but I won't get any further into that. One could argue that allowing this whole thing to go on for so long, to be up in the air, or we assure you things, it's fine. You want to lease, don't worry, we'll assure you. Which the previous government and the government before that apparently did. But imagine if this lease thing was sorted out, potentially, we would not have now this whole controversial situation that is relatively questionable. It is not so clear-cut, and it is not self-evident, and it is not obvious that everything with regards to the Hadid's matter by the state is 100% correct. It's just not. Regardless of their guilt or innocence. Because again, we're talking about the procedure in Mr. Warner's extradition case, right? And how that was messed up. Now, I understand that the Court of Appeal, I understand that a lot of judges in Trinidad and Tobago don't necessarily, when push comes to shove, let me not say that. I understand that a lot of judges err on the side of caution for certain things. And on some level, I can't say that it's always necessarily a bad ideology, because one could argue legislating by court ruling It's not necessarily something that a democracy should practice on a regular basis. But the longer this goes out and there are no charges, the greater the chance. Remember now, they were investigating a sitting police commissioner with regards to what she did in office. Couldn't charge her. They were investigating the actions of police officers on instructions going to Barbados to kidnap a man. And again, it's like, nobody knows nothing. The investigation goes nowhere. So, forgive me for saying their investigation into a man, his wife, and his aunt for a grand conspiracy to commit murder. If we ain't seeing charges coming down the pipe, the longer this goes on, the greater the likelihood that they will never be charged. And the irony, of course, is the same judges that erred on the side of caution is contributing to any potential perception of abuse, indirectly. They're doing their job, but unfortunately, they are maintaining a status quo that might, in the finality of the situation, be subject to a lawsuit that the state potentially can lose. And then now you have to wonder, on what level was erring on the side of caution technically not erring on the side of caution? Because what are you cautious of? Is your caution not wanting to interfere with the state's apparatus to deal with crime, and you are potentially wary of anything that's going to damage that? But how is that juxtaposed with the caution that the court should also have with regards to any violation of the rights of the citizens of the country? Because this is not a, we declare a state of emergency and within the first 3 to 6 months this happened. This is a, well, we couldn't renew a state of emergency, and our planned way to extend PDOs via new legislation for a new whole situation, zones of special operations, that failed. So we'll declare a new state of emergency. We just need an excuse. That's what they're saying. Huh? They said the Prime Minister warned. Yeah, the Prime Minister primed us for the state of emergency to be reinitiated, restarted, which again potentially goes against the spirit of the law. That's what it was. It wasn't a warning to the criminals. It was preparation for the public to say, don't be surprised when within a couple of weeks we declare another one. Because we don't have any other plan. We don't have any other plan. Our only plan is technically not a plan, according to one of their own ministers. So, I don't think this is going to end well, but I don't like the implication on what it means for other members of the population. And you might say, well, I'm not them. Listen, months ago, we would have even considered the potential of anything like this happening, right? If you think that the situation cannot evolve and then migrate into a different classification of segments of our population, I think that's a bit naive. I really do. And on some level, Mr. Samaru is not a member of the 1% that may or may not be part of a racial demographic that everybody has certain suspicions about. He's a man whose son was killed on camera. But we don't err on the side of caution for our citizens at times. Or we're starting to forget what that is and why that sometimes is important. And where we will end up it's actually somewhat ironic that on this issue, or rather on this topic, you have a former UNC minister looking at how a government played fast and loose with procedure and having a judge basically shut the whole thing down at this point. And then you have a current UNC government where you wonder, are they playing fast and loose, not just with procedure, but rather with major aspects of our laws and emergency powers? They say Jack Warner should sue the state. Well, that's the headline in one of today's papers. State must pay Jack. His legal costs. That's it. On some level, if that's all it costs, we would have got off lightly. It'd be very interesting to see if he decides to take the matter further. To be fair, there's certain situations I thought would have ended up with a massive lawsuit. Haven't really heard anything about that. Mr. Thomas has been holding off. Ms. Christopher has been seemingly holding off, or Mrs. I don't expect the Hadid's to hold off, though. So we just had the World Cup. And a former FIFA vice president just got some good news. And on some level, I mean, this is not too dissimilar to the situation with regards to death penalty. He's basically had this hanging over his head. It's one of the truly unfortunate aspects of our criminal justice system, that it's going to be long and drawn out. It potentially causes it to be more expensive because I don't know to what extent you're basically having to go in and out of court to show up, to not progress anywhere, still have to pay your lawyer for the court appearance or however it's structured. Like, they say that criminal defense lawyers love the way how things are. They get paid either way. But I guess the more appearances they have to make, the more money they get to milk. Having something like that over your head, having that demand on your finances is not easy. Mr. Warner's financial situation notwithstanding, not here to speak on that. I think on some level, we kind of need to understand too, this kind of thing, it's not bad because it happened to Mr. Warner. It's bad because it could happen to anybody. It's bad because probably in certain aspects of what happened to him, it does not be an extradition case. It could be some other type of court matter, criminal proceedings. In that way, it does happen to everybody. Everybody that goes before the courts, everybody has to go through that system, has to go through how slow it is, has to be on remand for 10 years for relatively minor offenses. On some level, murder trials arguably should not take that long. Of course, it's Trinidad, so they take that long or more. Right? And again, we have two examples where the current political party that's in government, you could argue, is on different sides of the issue, because it's not that the Hadids might have gone through unfortunate terms or conditions of imprisonment. It's that what they went through, whatever negative aspects of their imprisonment or detention that they went through, other people will experience. Mr. Samaru might have experienced. We don't know. It's not just always going to be gangsters and criminals that are going to have to face this, because I think part of it is we assume, oh, well, who cares if a criminal is on remand for 10 years or 15 years? Who cares? Why? Because again, at least before, I always got the, why are you defending the criminals? Why do you care about the criminals? It's not that I care about the criminals. It's that on some level, the consequences they bear should be the ones that we have proactively determined by laying it out in the law, not well, we don't care if they're neglected. It doesn't matter to us. Because again, it's not just going to be the ones who are criminals. The wrong person can get arrested. Wrong person could be suspected. They fit the profile. We just assume them to be doing something wrong. Maybe they're innocent here, but they had to be guilty of something. That's not really how a free democracy should operate. But then again, I'll end this with this. Carl Mimbert had a disagreement with the Auditor General. Didn't understand why she didn't want to include certain figures didn't want to include certain figures with regards to her statements on our country's revenue position. And he was basically saying she's underreporting revenue. And he's making an assertive determination in the process that's supposed to be trying to remedy the situation objectively. And the Privy Council pointed that out, ruled against him. But throughout the whole time, it seemed as though he was entitled or acting entitled. He did not understand why doesn't the Auditor General just do what I tell her to do. I am the minister. I'm telling her revenue is this. It is this. By our determination, this is what revenue is. Who is she to say that it is not? And the issue with that is she's the auditor. That's who she is to say that it is not. A company cannot dictate to someone auditing their financial systems how they are to interpret the information. The government does not have some special rights in terms of when they're being audited. And people will be like, no, but you don't understand, this is different. No, it's an audit. There's no special privilege here. And it seemed as though the Minister of Finance, ironically, at the time, did not understand the concept of an audit. That's a hell of a thing to say, right? Well, lo and behold, his future counterpart, let's put it that way, because there was a break in between them. So can't say the person that came after him. Goes on the campaign trail, wants to speak about his ideas for the economy. Gets to the part on diversification. Diversification. Diversification is a risk management strategy that involves spreading investments or business activities across various assets, industries, or markets. By not putting all your eggs in one basket, it protects you against significant losses if a single investment performs poorly or in a specific sector collapses. It protects you against significant losses if a specific sector collapses. Diversification. Diversification, sector and industry. Investing in various industries so that an economic slump in one doesn't drag down your entire portfolio. And then Mr. Tanku at the time, not minister yet, goes on to say, the first way how I'm going to promote diversification is to help pre-existing, the ease of doing business, I think, or something or the other, with regards to existing industries. So to prop up existing industries in any way cannot achieve anything that I just said there with regards to the meaning of diversification. Anything to support or to make better or to improve existing industries does not spread out your investment in order to ensure that the detriment of one sector doesn't pull down all of your financial situations, because your foundation is across multiple sectors. Dare I say, the Minister of Finance now, at least before he took office, did not know the meaning of the word diversification, because he didn't give any sort of justification as to how doing that will then lead to the benefits of diversification. And now, Now I find myself in an ironic situation where I am speaking about democracy and the principles of democracy and what is proper in a democracy and how a free society should be operating, if you want to call it a free and fair democracy. And dare I say, the Prime Minister went in front of her regional peers, people who arguably in their countries, at least in one case globally, has more respect on her. Now, to be fair, she's only now come back on the scene as a head of state. She's only had one go at it before, for one term. And she proceeds to essentially, one could question if it was a condescending way or consider it to be a condescending way, not necessarily an overly aggressive way, but there was some level of underlying tension in what she said when she essentially lectured CARICOM and all of the other heads of government with regards to what she thought it meant to be as a free society, as a free democracy, on how we are all free democracies, and how Cuba is not a free democracy, it's a dictatorship. And while I appreciated the principles, the basic premise that she put forward that day, the context of how it was done more and more makes it appear as though she understands the textbook aspects of what she said, but for whatever reason does not necessarily understand that you can't say that and grandstand on that position in front of regional leaders and then now come to your own country and not necessarily understand that the principles need to be applied locally as well. And not just applied, but they must be evident that they apply. It must be obvious that they're being applied. You must show us that you're applying them, because part of it is showing us, not telling us, helps reinforce the strength of our democracy. And it's ironic that the Prime Minister, who lectured others on the importance of a free democracy, is utilizing emergency powers. By their very nature, emergency powers erode a democracy. That's why they're only supposed to be used in an emergency. And now we reach a situation where, this should be in this morning's papers, there were two multiple casualty shootings, I believe. One in Siparia, right? 2 dead there, and then another situation with a triple homicide in Laventille, all in the same day. Granted, the murder rate might not reach 600, obviously, but who knows? The criminal gangs might figure it out. I mean, they already had multiple members in remand anyway, but they might figure it out. They might figure out how to push the boundaries slowly but surely and get the murder rate, not necessarily back to 600, but it would be back up. But more importantly, look, we're not necessarily putting up damper on shootings like this. But we have emergency powers that's been out there for basically a year. Well, is it an emergency anymore, or is it an inability? A lack of proficiency? And one could argue that when you're using emergency powers to erode our rights, because you don't know how else to do the job that you were elected to do, not with emergency powers, by the way. We wanted you to do your job well, not to do your job with shortcuts. Then now, on principle, it's hard not to question how cheaply we are giving up our rights, how cheaply we are tolerating. Because again, it's not an insurmountable task. I could understand what happened in El Salvador. I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I understand it. We weren't there. We weren't that bad. We can't manage our situation without emergency powers. Then arguably, are you the right government for the job? Because it's one thing to set up emergency powers to then give you time to make improvements. But we have not seen any significant improvement in law enforcement over the last year. And there's nothing to indicate that anything substantial is coming down the pipe. So there's nothing to indicate that the need for emergency powers are going to end anytime soon. And in that case, it's no longer an emergency situation. It is an admission of a lack of ability. It is an admission that on some level, the Prime Minister of our democratically elected country does not necessarily understand the full meaning, implications, and responsibility behind the word democracy. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay tuned, talking about the wesn. We'll be right back after this.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
In this day of stay-at-home and work from home, home has never meant more than it does today. Whether you're looking to buy, rent, or build your new home, now is the time to get going. Gittins & Gittins real estate agents are here to take you to that place of your dreams. Let us take you home. We help you find that rental to rest along the way, or journey with you to find your home destination. Investors and commercial enterprises too, call us and we'll walk the distance to place your business in just the right location. Owners, leave the headaches to us. We'll find your tenants or buyers while you stay at home. We'll even manage your property at your bidding. Anything real estate, come home to Gittins & Gittins Real Estate. Call us at 760-3280 or 747-1220, or visit us at 16 Fifth Street in Woodbrook.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the content capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing@wsncc.com or WhatsApp 6861662 and start building your future.
there are limitations in all healthcare sectors,
Correct.
not just this country,
Yes.
where the numbers will surpass the amount of doctors and nurses to provide that quality care. When we're talking about holding a patient's hand, giving them the support, emotional support that they need, advice, that gap.
Yes.
You are providing that pivotal gap, so that really makes you stand out from all other NGOs as far as my experience goes.
As I actually go into the homes also of the patient.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward and our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man
is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
I'm back here talking about the WSN show. Michael Small, joined by acting ASP Christopher Roon. Once again, our media ambassador joining us this morning. Welcome back to Talking Point.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me. Good day to you and your viewers and your colleagues. Well, today the topic is road safety, especially with the rainy weather conditions we've been experiencing. You know, we have a few weather alerts that were out recently, and we're seeing signs of flooding and persons driving through floodwaters, and persons need to be more careful when driving through floodwaters, when driving on the nation's roadways, especially when it's wet. You need to slow down, you need to go below the speed limit, especially on the highways. Because what we're noticing, we're seeing very light motor vehicles, for example, a wagon next to a tractor trailer, or what we call a big truck, and you're seeing it going at the same speed on a wet road, and there's easy collision here. So very light vehicles can skid off the roadway very easily. So everybody needs to take it down.
I mean, one of the things is, and you see this on the highways, you see this on a morning around the Savannah especially.
Yeah.
When we're not going that fast, we're not necessarily bumper to bumper a lot of times, right? So I think this morning, the amount of times I saw people wanting to weave in the narrowest of margins, the narrowest of gaps. At times, cars were kind of weaving at the same time. That's one of the risks, right? Yeah. And I find that a lot of motorists take it for granted that they will maintain their fine-tooth combed level of control, right? Yeah. And always be able to squeeze through, and they have no margin of error. And they don't necessarily, and this is what I try to tell anyone that says, I'm a good driver, I'm not going to make a mistake. It's like, it's not just about you. It's what other people on your road. Yeah. And then now when you add weather, because without weather, that's already an issue. But I feel when you add weather to it now, because at times I do see people like, why are you driving so fast on a wet road? Right? It's not as though I'm in speeding cars. And I've been in cars that were not driving that fast and lost control. Yeah. Right? In one case, it might have been because we skidded on the paint. Right. So one of the tires was on the line, right? One of the lines. And that might have helped degrade the traction for one of the tires of the car. Right. So you don't have to be driving that fast, right? So to see people now still driving aggressively on the highway, weaving through traffic during the rain, get really nervous. Yeah. Yesterday we were on the Ryson Road, and they had a car weaving through traffic, but the odd thing is, well, he weaved narrowly in front of us. just to miss us, only to then go back in the lane he was in. And it wasn't that when he went back, he was avoiding a car.
No.
He was just like,
But he might be frustrated and trying
not
to...
figuring out what he was doing and was just weaving for the sake of weaving.
But yesterday, coincidentally, I was on the road during the football. Because there's the science I have, there's a scientific theory that I had and it worked. I recognize that anytime I watch the football match where Argentina played, they won. so yesterday I did not watch the game. So I stayed outside.
Oh, so it's your fault?
It's what?
It's your fault that they lost. That's what they're saying.
I'm just saying Spain won. Congratulations to Spain.
Right.
Yeah, they did a very excellent job.
How would you know? You didn't see the match?
Well, I looked at it after.
After, yeah.
And I was able, so I stayed on the roadway a bit and there was no traffic. I was on the bus route, there was no passengers on the bus route.
Right.
Probably 5 maxis passed me. And then I went onto the highway, there was nothing on the highway. And there was a bit of a drizzle and, and persons were very casually driving and whatnot. And driving well within the speed limit and whatnot.
Right, okay.
So that was good. But, the scientific methodology worked and Spain won.
Yes.
Right? I didn't watch the game.
Yes, Peter. The amount of... I didn't stay on the avenue to watch the game, but I passed through. The amount of Argentina shirts, I was like, whoa, that's one hell of a disappointing crowd on the avenue.
They might be able to sell it for a cheaper price today. I was able to, we had a watch party at work. So we had, like a lime, cook, whatnot.
Right.
And I stayed outside the building when I reached. I stayed there.
And luckily no one. So what you're saying is the people who speed are football fans.
Probably.
Because nobody was speeding during the game. It was all just leisurely Sunday driving.
It was really leisurely. It was nice. Everything was calm and, And Trinidadans really took it in stride. There was no rioting. There was no need to call out an emergency branch.
I would hope not.
Well, I recognize most of them were Argentina fans because they were very sad after.
Yes. Road safety. Not Argentina bashing. That's not why we're here, right? I think it's thankful that you didn't come out wearing Spain colors.
I actually looked for a Spain jersey. I couldn't get any.
Wow. Actually, I didn't see a lot of people.
My plan is to buy a Spain jersey and wear it for every day for a year.
Is Spain your side? I don't.
Well, anybody that could have beaten Argentina is my side.
All right, road safety, folks. So, I mean, I guess one of the things too is perhaps we run into this annual cycle of we get accustomed to dry season.
Right.
And it's almost like if we forget, when it rains, it can be relatively significant and significantly degrade road conditions.
Yeah, because there was flooding in some years, I believe in Barata. Sangreani had some rain because I was up on that side as well. But there wasn't much flooding in between that. But I think there was El Socorro Road, if I'm not mistaken. I think El Socorro Road flooded. And
ironically, the flooding for certain aspects of day-to-day road safety, well, if it's flooding, it's really hard to speed through the flood.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But it's when now you have a layer of water that doesn't seem as though it's going to impede your movement.
Right.
But we're not talking about just, there's rain and it's running off.
Right, and then you might be susceptible to falling into a pothole that's very deep. I think I saw something on TV. But there's a very large pothole in Pinal, I think, and a guy was in it, and he was like halfway in it. So imagine you're not familiar with the road, and you're driving through flooded waters, and you fall into the pothole or whatnot. And then the very light motor vehicles, once the flood waters are more than 2 feet, you will float away. So we need people to be very careful not to drive through flood waters, especially if you have a very light motor vehicle. Trucks and SUVs and whatnot.
Well, I mean, even then, depending on the situation, it's not necessarily all that safe. And I think you could go online, you could go on YouTube, and you could watch videos, I think both locally and abroad, of people who are like, I'm going to drive through. And it's like, time out. That's not just still water.
Yeah.
That is moving water.
And then flash flooding is a serious thing. I remember some years back, I was in St. Augustine. There's a Mario's there. And the Mario's compound is very high compared to the rest of the roadway. Right. And flood and rain started to fall. So I had coincidentally just parked up in Mario's to go and purchase some pizza. And the floodwaters came up. And came up higher than the car park. And I noticed vehicles floating along. These were basically boats. And these vehicles were floating along the eastern. And this water came up so quickly and then subsided quickly. And I and all got affected because it came up into my vehicle in the car park. And that's a potential issue when you're driving. Look for high ground and stay away from the floodwaters, especially in flood-prone areas that could are susceptible to flash flooding. Flash flooding is very dangerous.
I also found the last time that I drove in heavy rain, which was a while ago actually, like a few weeks ago, well, I went to try and do an errand. The rain kind of got in the way of those plans. But then when I'm driving back now, I had serious temptation to duck in somewhere because it was difficult to just see. You know, the windshield wipers are going, and we've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
But I mean, I recently, so it's not even now. It was weeks ago. I'm literally saying, yeah, everything is working in the car.
Yeah.
But I'm still having problems seeing. Maybe driving is not the safest thing right now.
Right, yeah.
The flip side is where I was, there was nowhere for me to go where I could have exited the car.
Yeah.
You know, I would have, because it's raining so heavily.
Yeah.
Right? But I just felt I need to get off the road.
Yeah.
And then when, you know, the rain kind of let up, I got something to eat. I was like, right, but I need to now use this window to get home. I think we kind of take it for granted. You could drive in rain. It's like not all rain is created equal just on visibility.
No, it's definitely not. You'd have thunderstorms, and sometimes rain, I don't know how it comes. It comes
sideways. Yeah, the wind is just too heavy. Yeah.
It comes sideways and it hits the windscreen. The best thing to do, and then you could put on your lights if you're on the highway or once you're on the roadway, put on your headlights, put on your hazard lights.
When it's
especially
when it's raining heavily, even during the day.
Well, even during the day, because that will help other motorists see you and whatnot. I mean, it's a strange year because, I mean, two major things are happening. You have I think it's called Super El Nino. I don't know if it's scientifically proven to be a correct thing. I'm seeing it on TikTok.
Right.
But there's predictions that there will be major droughts and heavy rainfall into 2027.
Okay.
Right. I mean, the second major issue that will occur, Spain won the World Cup. So I mean.
Wow.
I mean, Argentina fans will not be able to help themselves. They won't be able to drive properly, you know. And it's difficult if your team lost and rainfall and Sean, you won't be able to do that. So,
wow. Wow. I mean, I won't doubt. I mean, that actually speaks to a very real thing because I won't doubt there were a lot of watch parties, right? So of course now this is Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
You ain't having a gathering at a bar to watch a sports game and no one's drinking.
No.
People are gonna be drinking, right? And then now it's the World Cup, so your team either won or lost.
Right.
Both of those things for drinkers are easy excuses for drinking.
We suspect there will be a lot of depressed drivers out there.
But I mean, luckily, we're speaking after the fact, right? We don't have to worry about what might be the night of. But I guess that is also something that we also have to consider. Now, traditionally, there are a series of parties during July, August, Trinidad and Tobago, and we also kind of take that for granted as well. Yeah. I know that some in the younger generation do have the designated driver thing.
Some,
although I do wonder if it's because they are just not. There's an interesting phenomenon where the younger generations now that are literally now coming up to 18, 19, they might not necessarily be the same kind of have the same party mode as generations before.
Well, even for a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, those 18-year-olds were totally different to the 18-year-olds now.
Yeah, but because of social media, how they grow up a bit more remotely, social interaction is not the same. Yeah. And then, of course, social drinking might not be quite the same.
Yeah, it might not be the same.
Right? So it's interesting to see. We might see a paradigm shift in that regard. But until that happens, you know, we're stuck with each other on the road.
Right.
And, you know, the 30-plus drivers and the propensity of drinking for those people still exists.
Yeah. So you've seen some road rage. You've seen people, you know, as you say, acting erratically on the nation's roadways and whatnot. And it's worse if you're doing it in the rain, especially with the roadway being wet, driving conditions being poor. lighting conditions being poor, you need to, adopt a better driving stance out there.
But I think a lot of it is because I think some people also fool themselves with, yes, I know this road, I've driven it in rain before. Because I remember in rain, we were going somewhere, I think southeast of Shagona, something like that. So it's one of those kind of like side back roads, not Shagona's proper.
Yeah.
And there were puddles.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm telling the guy driving, yeah, just be careful for potholes.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Yeah. So here's the thing now, here's the irony. On one hand, there's the people that want to speed through the water and disregard the potential for a pothole being here. But then there are the ones who want to speed and swerve around the water. And, it could be a blind corner where you're making that swerve, or you're just not paying attention to the road, or you're assuming that the other guy will stop. And I think a lot of our drivers do that. They assume that if I'm in the way, they will stop. I don't ever feel comfortable doing that, so I can't say that I fully understand how that works. I'm one of those, I'll wait, and then if they wait, the two of us are schmucks waiting together, right? But I see a lot of people drive aggressively in the sense of, the other guy will move.
Right.
And I feel as though this is not a sane way to live. And I guess what happens when you have two people that basically say, the other guy will move. I need to avoid this puddle because there might be a puddle here. The other guy is going to wait.
Yeah, hopefully responsible and mature driving will excel, and persons would drive better. Take a step back, as you say, and sober thinking.
I mean, this is trying to be, I don't know.
Yeah, we see it every day. There are a lot, especially when one of these stats that rise when rainfall is accidents.
Yeah.
We get a lot of accidents, especially around the Queen's Park Savannah. Yeah, especially around the
Is there any specific location, or is it just mainly the corners?
No. What do you mean, around the Savannah?
Yeah.
More like Gillingham Junction there. I guess because of the traffic lights. There's an abrupt stop by persons, and they slide into each other's vehicle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then there's Queen's Park West, TGI, around by the embassy. Major by the corner.
Same traffic lights, or this is might be the corner.
Corners,
yeah.
Because there are some extreme right angle corners.
Yes.
And persons, even though they're driving slowly, because the road is wet, they would skid off the road. And they would actually slide into other vehicles.
Well, that's the thing. Is it slowly, as in they're driving at 60?
No, below
or
that.
50?
Yeah, like 10. Yeah.
And they still,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's because of the swerve, and it depends on the type of vehicle. It would be light. So light SUVs, light motor vehicles tend to slip and slide on those roadways a lot more than the heavy vehicles. So even SUVs, very light motor SUVs, would slide off the road and skid.
Well, I actually had the reverse. The car that I drove before, it was an old car, but it was a very heavy chassis.
Right.
So that, a couple of times, slid out of control with me.
Right. That could be because of the tires. If it's not appropriate tires, if it's too smooth, it doesn't channel the water properly. So it depends on the vehicle's condition.
No, that also is like you said, they went at 10 and they still slid.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily that fast, but I did try to not turn, but move lanes.
And then we get a lot of accidents on Wrightson Road when rain falls because of abrupt stopping.
The traffic lights?
No. The road condition. So a vehicle might slow down quickly to avoid a pothole.
Oh, right, yeah.
These manhole covers, and they end up getting collided with and whatnot. And then, of course, if it's a very heavy rainfall, then you have poor visibility, and then you have people hitting each other. So hence the reason we ask you to put in your headlights and your hazard lights.
I mean, I actually don't witness that many instances of when I see near misses. Because ironically, for the common citizen, it's not like we see accidents happen in front of us all the time, right?
Yeah, but we actually record a lot of accidents.
Right.
When rain falls.
I actually don't notice a lot of near misses on rear end collisions.
Yeah.
Usually it's more side to side.
Yeah, we get a lot of accidents on Lady, both on Morva and Belmont side.
Well,
yeah, especially when rain falls.
And the thing is, this is the other thing that I have an issue with people. Because with road safety, it's not just about, we survived the accident. Then there's the whole, well, you have to, you know, report it.
Yeah, of course.
You got to go through all the process.
Yeah.
And then now, what do we hear about certain areas where you have an accident?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
There are certain areas where you don't want to necessarily be stopped.
Yeah, or get
right?
into an accident.
I mean, even the Savannah, I know somebody who was, I mean, I think it was a carjacking.
Right.
But it happened at a traffic light.
Right. Around the Savannah?
Yeah, around the Savannah. It was like somewhere around midnight. Maybe, I think, by the QRC traffic lights. Like after midnight, something like that, right?
Right, right.
It seemed like a very randomish crime.
Right.
But it's one of those things where I'm very wary about stopping at red lights by myself in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like this. You know, sometimes you wonder, it's like, I still stop, but I feel very like, oh my gosh, I'm just a sitting duck here. You know, you know, and if there's one other car around, it's like, oh, this is even worse. You know, if there were 2 or 3 cars, then I might actually feel safer. But it's just one other car.
I think about crime in Trinidad, it seems random, but it's crime's opportunity that randomly happen. So, you know, I've actually seen footage where criminals are on patrol.
Oh.
So we see them in the vehicle patrolling the area, and as soon as they get an opportunity.
I can't remember if you sent it to me, if someone else sent it to me, but there was a video of a maxi taxi crash.
Right.
And it seemed as though, you know, opportunity.
Right.
They see the crash and then they descend like vultures.
Yeah, I've seen like in footage like in Aranguez, this guy came home late. I think he went boating or he went fishing. I don't know the difference, but he came home late, like 1, 2 in the morning. And as he lives down an alley, so he parked to open his gate.
Right.
So he parks on the roadway, in the alley, which is a roadway, a small, a narrow roadway.
Yeah, yeah.
To his home. And he parked, got out of the vehicle, and he engaged the alarm. So when he engaged the alarm, before he opened the gate, he engaged the alarm.
Right.
And the blinkers went off. So it's a narrow alley, so the blinkers lit up the alley. So you just see this yellow light up the alley. Simultaneously, you saw a white vehicle passing on the roadway, on the Aranguez roadway. And as it passed, the lights blinked. That's when his alarm engaged and the blinkers went off. So you saw where they stopped. So you saw the red lights
for the brake.
For the brake of their vehicle light up that area. Then you saw 2 gentlemen run out the vehicle and came at him. But he thought very quickly, and instead of opening the gate, he jumped over the gate and he got out of it. And he didn't even go inside. He went, his home leads to another area.
Right.
And he was able to escape. But they didn't pursue him beyond the gate. Yeah, but that's how, and they were patrolling. They were basically patrolling. So we got the vehicle numbers and whatnot, and we were on the lookout. I'm not too sure what went on, if they ever held them or anything like that.
Yeah, so that's the thing, depending on the time of day now. You don't want to have an accident at night.
Yeah.
In a not crowded area. Because, okay, it might be a genuine accident.
Yeah.
There's 2 sitting ducks to be robbed.
Right.
In the moment.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I understand. Somebody hit me not too long ago. You know, you can't always control it.
Right.
But I guess part of it is you control the parts that you can't control. You minimize the number of accidents that you're in.
And unfortunately in Trinidad, like in any other jurisdiction, it happens a lot in other jurisdictions where RTAs are used to hijack another vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually seen it already.
Yeah, they hit you, you stop, you talk.
They normally,
yes.
they normally, in these accidents, they normally target vehicles with 1 passenger, 1 person in it, like a lone occupant, the driver alone. And then they hit them, and when they come out, they hijack them and take their vehicle. So that's how they target them.
This is, again, well, I've never been in this situation. Whenever I've ever been in an accident, it's usually either, like we're talking in the middle of, not in the middle of, but right, not too deep into Maraval, and there's traffic all around, and we're by a shopping center, right? So it's relatively safe. Or it's broad daylight on a major road with a lot of cars passing, it's relatively safe. Or by a mall. One time somebody ran me on the exit of a mall, right? And it's some, like, a couple of ladies or a little old lady or something like that. I'm not necessarily worried. I've never been in it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm driving home. There's not a lot of cars on the road. Somebody hits me. And in those kind of situations where it's like, yes, etiquette says you do this. It's like, to hell with etiquette. I'll speak to them through the glass.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, hey, meet me at police station X, Y, and Z. or we'll sort this out tomorrow, right?
Right.
Would it be safer to actually, on some level, say, let's not do this tonight, let's do this in the morning? Or we could go there on our own time. Let me just take up, I mean, I guess exchanging insurance information is a little bit clumsier in that kind of situation.
Yeah, well, it's mandated by law that you exchange driving particulars.
Yeah.
Driver's permit, insurance. You must exchange that. And then proceed to the nearest police station without delay unless you have unreasonable excuse. So a reasonable excuse might be you have dialysis, you need to seek medical attention, you have to take your kids to somewhere like it's unsafe for them at this hour or whatever, once you have a reasonable explanation.
I mean, I guess this is the thing, right? So now when you're in this kind of situation at night, you're supposed to exchange information, then go to the police station. At the very least, maybe you could say, well, let's go to the police station, we'll exchange particulars there.
Yeah, you can do that, yeah.
Right? But still, it kind of leaves people in a very
prone position.
Yeah, very, you know, vulnerable position. This is one of those times where I'm not condoning it.
Yeah,
but
you can understand it.
Certain infractions, I'm like, I'm not going to be bothered if you do it, you know, because of safety. I mean, obviously, you don't run a red light because it's 1 o'clock in the morning while you're watching cars drive in front of you, that, you know, and you're going to dodge them or anything like that. Yeah, you don't do that.
Or if a police vehicle is behind you, you know.
Well, yes, hopefully, obviously, you know, the one time when you shouldn't necessarily be like, oh my gosh, it's a police vehicle. It's like, yes, it's at night. It's a police vehicle. This is one time where it's like, this is all positives and in theory, no negatives, right? There are no other cars for you to scratch and then cause the police staff to stop. That's the whole point. You're isolated. You should be more than, I was like, right, no one is going to mess with me for the next however many seconds this police car is here.
Right.
I'm more than happy. I'm not going to be no nervous, you know, because I think a lot of people get nervous when the police are driving in proximity to them.
Yeah, correct.
Because for me, it's like, now is not the time to have a fender bender.
Yeah.
Just adding complication to my day, right? That's what I think, right? But hey, there's no other car on the road. I know this is a car that should not be looking to carjack me. So that's a plus.
Should, yeah. Hopefully not.
I say that not because I have suspicions, but just as a matter of
well, I mean, we've
procedure.
seen cases where...
I mean, fake police, yes, that could definitely happen, yeah. We've seen the blue lights be confiscated.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate reality. People still die to road accidents. I guess this is one of those things where...
And another thing, Sean, I mean, it may not be legal or illegal not to wear a seatbelt in the back seat, but it's really recommended. It's common sense, it's logical, it's there. Once you're in the back seat of a vehicle, also wear a seatbelt because...
Well, the good news is, these cars have these pesky...
For the front.
No.
For the back too?
Some of the, some of the new ones for the back too.
Okay, well that's good. But it really makes sense to wear a seatbelt in the back because even I've actually seen accidents where the front seat passengers are well seated and well they have on a seatbelt, and they're well secured, and the back seat passengers are the one who get injured.
Right.
I've actually seen where there was an accident. The driver, it's a Hilux, the driver made it out, but the back seat passenger got a broken leg.
Oh, they were behind a seat? Because I would imagine one of the riskiest things is the back seat in the middle.
Yeah, they were behind a seat,
So if there's a collision, the back seat passenger in the middle could launch.
Yeah, launch.
And if you're behind a seat, depending on the angles, yes, the seat is soft, but that's no guarantee that you can't get, like you said, they got a broken leg.
Yeah, so safety is always recommended.
But consider this, because I remember when I was a relatively new driver, we had a Mitsubishi wagon.
Right.
That thing would rattle if you got close to the speed limit.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It couldn't push past the speed limit like how some of these guys, speed on the highway.
Yeah.
Then my dad had a car with a turbo in it. It was not like a fancy car. It was, it was a scooter.
Right.
And there was at least one time where I'm on the highway and it's not, the car is effortlessly going, and I had to remind myself, I'm not going to feel any kind of how.
Right.
I need to consciously get off the gas because we're going to go past 100 kilometers easy, right? But the thing is, that car was not the norm, not even for the model, right? The turbo was a feature, right? And it was not sports car, but it had some go. But now, and my brother was the one that kind of told me this, right? He's far more into cars than I am. Because we see there was one time where a certain hatchback model was a very ubiquitous model on the roads, didn't really necessarily have a lot of engine power to push speed. And that was replaced by a new hybrid hatchback model. In this case, it's the Note, right? Same car manufacturer. But it's almost like if, well, the Note has taken, well, the Tida is the face car. I don't know why I'm not saying the things, right? I'm not endorsing any car manufacturers or brands here. But a lot of people who had a Note might then, for economic reasons, have a Tida, buy a Note. The difference is a Note has go. Right? A Note has speed. And the way how it was described to me is, yeah, when you're accustomed with one car where you have to mash the gas just to get any kind of acceleration, with the new car now, especially with a hybrid that uses electronic transmission, which has no delay or anything like that. You know, you go in, right? Where if you mash that gas, you go in. And I do wonder, have you all noticed, because it seems as though, of course, the technology is getting better. So the ability to have more acceleration, more engine power, and more speed is getting up there. Not just in, oh, you have a fancy car.
No, definitely not.
Right?
We've actually seen that with the fully electric vehicles. They have no hesitation. It's 0 to 100 in less than a second.
But then now the thing is, you're basically looking at the average car on the road is faster. And the propensity now to go at ridiculous speeds, the capacity is more widespread. And on what level now are drivers, some of them being taken by surprise by it, or some of them maybe just not respecting it? Because I think too, the first time it happened to me, part of it was psychologically, I was so accustomed to the car, once I got to whatever sane limit it had, you know, it just couldn't handle it. Whereas the other car, we're going past that limit, smooth. You're not going to feel it. You're not going to feel like you're going fast.
So it's probably both. You have the lack of respect for that potential for that vehicle to fly past the speed limit. And then, as you say, you may not feel it. So you're driving, you're accelerating, you're not looking at the speedometer, and then you catch yourself at 120. And you know, it has that potential to skid off the road, because even that Note is very light. And then the Tida is very light.
That happened to us. The person who was driving, he basically was like, why am I driving so fast? Because we were coming onto the highway.
You wouldn't know.
And I mean, it wasn't like he was going 140, right? It might have been 90-something to 100. But it was still like, why am I driving so fast? Because it just didn't realize, you know.
What we need in Trinidad too is laws that cater to different type of drivers based on your maturity and experience. You need laws that, so like in Canada, I think when you're at a particular age, you can't go on any particular lane that you want to go on. You have to stay within your lane. And there's also the need for, as I said, for the very light motor vehicles, like wagons and Tidas and, no offense, very light motor vehicles to be in particular lanes. As opposed to being able to overtake on a fast lane at 100 kilometers per hour. So we need lanes with particular speed limits on the nation's roadways.
I mean, we just think about part of it is some of the highways, some of the intersections are not really designed, like in Tobago. One of the things that, again, my brother tells me all the time, there's certain, because it's not like a proper highway where you have off ramps, right? So there are certain side streets that just exit onto the highway. But the problem is if people are driving, like if it's a highway and driving at those speeds, the cars now coming out of these side streets, it creates an unsafe environment for both parties, the traffic and...
Of course, so there's a lot of need for experienced drivers with training. So you know, I was lucky to have, as I came into the police service, I would have met drivers on the road who were very experienced. And who obeyed the laws of the roadway. So these were elderly drivers, older persons, and they were very respectful to the nation's laws when it came to the highway and the roadways of Trinidad and Tobago. So, and now you're seeing a lack of that respect and experience. So persons, you know, you're driving a fast car and the car, you don't take it on. And then you don't have that experience how to handle a vehicle if it were to go beyond the speed limit, if it were to get out of control and whatnot. So I've actually had the experience of seeing both ends of the past 20 years, 25 years of driving on the nation's roadways. So there's a lot of need for defensive driving. Persons can adopt or employ those services from a driving school. As a police officer, we undertake defensive and offensive driving and whatnot to know how to drive around people and whatnot. But that's a totally different kettle of fish when it comes to defensive driving. So, you know, take the opportunity to have your kids, especially from a young age, experience and taking the defensive driving. It helps them a lot to gain that experience.
That's the thing. One of the things is we kind of take it for granted. Oh, well, the new cars could handle more speed, so we can increase the speed limit. I'm like, I think we've reached the limit, I think, of a sane speed limit.
Right.
And one of the things is, yeah, the thing is the cars can handle the speed, but can the driver handle the speed?
Yeah, and then our roads aren't really built
for that. It's not the Autobahn.
Not the vehicle, it's
Yeah.
not the Autobahn. So whereas you have a European vehicle that could probably go very fast on a particular roadway in Europe, you don't have that roadway here in Trinidad. So we don't have the type of roadways that we need. That would be best suited for speeding vehicles.
I mean, parts of the highway you have relatively free-flowing traffic at times, but you don't always have that.
No, you don't.
Right?
And there's always also the potential. So the highway is not built a particular way for speed, for endless speed.
Yeah.
So you have the potential of corners and dips and heights and whatnot.
And notice, because I've said this before, the interesting phenomenon. Now, on the Autobahn, you could get a ticket for driving too slow.
Right.
Because I believe that's a safety hazard.
Yeah.
Right? On some level, that exists on our highways, and dare I say, it's somewhat of an artificial thing in that, well, because you have people that are too aggressive, now the rest of us have to maintain a minimum level of speed to try to ironically stay safe.
Yeah.
It in a way kind of makes no sense. It's forcing everybody to drive a little bit faster in order to try to like not be a sitting duck that's gonna necessarily now get in the way of somebody driving, doing something dotish and causing an accident.
Has shown that driving too slowly on a highway causes accidents.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have a lot of people, if you go on the nation's roads now, there's a lot of people that drive on the fast lane, what we call the overtaking lane, at a very slow rate of speed. And they believe that because they've reached the speed limit, they're entitled to drive on the fast lane. No, the fast lane is for overtaking. If somebody wants to break the law, it might actually be safer for them to drive at a higher rate of speed over the speed limit on the fast lane, so that they can move out of your way or move out of everybody's way, so that the potential for accident decreases, as opposed to you driving slowly and they come at a high rate of speed and they end up crashing into you.
You see, I understand the arguments. I'll just say this. I think it is you shouldn't be on the fast lane, on the overtaking lane without overtaking, right? The thing is, if you had the speed limit, then no one's overtaking. We're just all at the speed limit.
You can't do that. No, you can't drive on the overtaking lane at all.
I know. But what I'm saying is, I think the argument shouldn't be, well, it's for people to overtake you. I think it should be, well, we're just at the speed limit. No one should be overtaking me, whether I'm on the fast lane or on the left lane.
Well,
right?
No.
Because if we're all on the left of the overtaking lane at the speed limit, no one should have cause to overtake unless it's an emergency.
Shouldn't. But you could cause an accident.
And one could argue, yeah, we're all driving the speed limit, traffic should be flowing.
Right.
No one needs to overtake, and emergency vehicles then could use the overtaking lane.
Right.
Right? One would imagine. So that's all I'm saying. Just the concept of people that need to overtake over the speed limits.
Yeah.
I'm like, overtaking one car on the highway is not going to make your trip that much faster.
Yeah.
Especially if you're then going to come back down to the speed limit somehow. But that's just me. But I guess it all comes back down to, because I think some people, especially when it's two lanes, well, it's very difficult sometimes to cruise on the left lane when the left lane has potholes.
Yeah. Right.
So that's the kind of business decision, depending on the, now when it's 3 lanes, it's different. There are parts of the east-west highway that the leftmost lane is actually quite pristine, right? Especially going west, going towards Port of Spain.
Yeah.
So I have no issue driving on that.
Right.
And the middle lane, some might think, oh, the middle lane is safe. It's like, I don't think the middle lane is safe. I think the middle lane might be, especially at night, when you have people driving at high speed. If you're not one of those people, then you're an obstacle that they might hit.
Yeah.
Or they're an obstacle they might swerve to avoid and hit somebody else.
Right.
So driving at a normal 80 at 1 in the morning in the middle lane on the highway might not be the safest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I mean, again, this is kind of the crazy things that we have to compensate on a practical level because you have yahoos that are potentially going 140, 150.
Yeah. But we've seen a lot of people driving very slowly on the overtaking.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I go on the left lane.
Right.
Right? Like when I started to now drive slower and slower. I mean, you go on the right lane in part because, right, I need to turn right or whatever. But the moment I'm like, all right, I can't stay in these lanes, the right lane or the middle lane. I have to make my way to the left, get out of the way, right? If I want to drive at my nice 70. It's just practical sense. With regards to defensive driving too, one of the things that I think kind of makes it hard for people who don't take the course, because they won't necessarily understand it naturally. I remember when I was younger, a friend of mine asked me if I did a defensive driving course, and I said no. And he made note of the fact that I like to maintain a certain distance behind everybody. If you drive in town during the day, you know that distance means someone's going to cut in front of you. And the annoying part is not someone's going to cut in front of you. The annoying part is, oh, well, I then have to make more distance. And then somebody else is going to cut in front of you. And then you have to make more distance, and so on and so on.
Yeah, if you're taking long trips, take your time, stay on the left lane. Especially those who are making that long journey back to Argentina. It's going to be a really depressing drive. Take your time, stay on the left lane. Stay on the left lane. Don't go on the fast lane.
Don't be like the Spain supporters who are speeding in jubilation. Is that what you're saying?
Don't be
that. That's illegal. That's what that is.
Don't shock people who try to reach where they're going.
Spain people. Not that I'm an Argentina fan per se, but I'm like, wow, this guy. Right? I'm surprised when I brought up defensive driving, you say, yes, you need to be more defensive in your driving, unlike Argentina, who got that goal scored on them.
Who had no defense.
No
forward action.
Yeah. But my point is, I feel as though psychologically, Trinis are not going to leave that space. They're not going to do certain things for defensive driving because it is very easy to fall into this, well, I'm not going to let this other driver have one up on me.
Right. Yeah.
And at some point you realize, why am I playing this game? There's no prize at the end. There's no money on who wins this competition. And there's only lose. If anybody loses, that's real money you're losing there, one way or another.
Road rage is unexplainable.
Well, it's a road ego.
Yeah, ego.
It's not rage yet. It'll eventually get to rage.
It'll get to rage.
But it starts at
Ego,
ego.
yeah. A car taking you over. And then for some reason they leave the slow lane, they go into the fast lane and they drive slower than they were in the slow lane.
No, what gets me is not driving slow in the overtaking lane.
Yeah.
It is we're in the left lane.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go in the overtaking lane.
To
overtake.
Right.
The guy in front of you is not driving that fast.
No.
You have decided to overtake him by going 1 kilometer an hour faster than he is.
Yeah.
Or worse yet, I go in the other lane to essentially drive next to this person.
Right, and you don't switch back to the slow lane. So you don't overtake and go into the slow.
So they come from behind a car, get next to this car, and then loiter there forever. And again, I would not have an issue if they're driving at a cruising speed. I understand for those people that want to speed, that might be a minor issue for them. Forgive me for not shedding any tears for those people. But if it was that they were driving 90 to the speed limit, fine. I don't need to overtake you then, right? But we're talking when people want to drive at like 60.
60, yeah.
On the highway. 60. Okay, I might drop with you to 70, but I mean, come on, man. And then there are times when, okay, I might want to go to 80. I have somewhere to be.
Yeah.
The longer the distance is, granted, the difference between 50 to 60 will make up a lot more time than 70 to 80 or 80 to 90, right? That's just how speed works. When you're driving really slowly, a little bit of speed is going to make your trip a lot shorter. When you're driving quickly, more speed isn't really going to help that much with your ETA. But there are times when I want to go from slow to not so slow. Granted, and I don't want to be stuck behind.
Yeah, I think...
and you see that around Savannah a lot too.
Yeah, I actually experienced that same issue when you're driving, like in New Jersey. You know, the New York plates seem to tend to do that exact same thing.
Just drive side by side.
Yeah, and then slow down. So they like to cruise. So they come out into the country in New Jersey and they cruise on the highway in New Jersey because they're not experienced. They're not accustomed to this amount of freedom on New York. Yeah.
They're not accustomed to having open roads.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't have a problem if you don't want to drive fast. I just have a problem if, like, say on the Savannah, and you decide to go next to the car, right? So there's two of y'all now. There's no cars ahead of you. You're both driving at 40 or 35, and you're just holding up. Yeah. We're not wanting to necessarily drive that much faster than you, but still, it's at a snail's pace. And then also, I think one of the things, and this might lead to road rage, because this happens to me every now and then in Tobago, single lane roads, why are you driving at like 25 along the whole stretch?
And then you don't pull over for people to overtake.
And you don't pull over. So you're doing something that's... Are you on the phone?
No, there are slow drivers. You know, as people age, they tend to lose their average.
I said 25. I'm talking about noticeably slow for even a slow driver like me to be like, this is too slow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is not a reasonable pace.
Right.
And then, of course, now with ego, road rage, this is the thing. Someone trying to overtake you in frustration, they're not paying attention, that could cause an accident. Someone might get vexed at you, they might do something against you to attack you. Unfortunately, that's the kind of thing you have to consider in TNT. So I don't understand it, and sometimes it's not old people.
No, because when we go when we are in marked vehicles, and we see it a lot on the overtaking lane, we try to overtake on the overtaking lane.
Right.
And persons make it difficult because, and then we have on the blue lights, sometimes we have on the siren. The siren is on for nearly a minute, and persons still don't pull over.
Just loitering.
At a
low cruising speed.
So their attention is really poor when it comes to being on the nation's roads. Because, I mean, a marked police vehicle or ambulance is behind you.
I did notice last week that there was an ambulance with its siren on. And I did not realize it. Now, it wasn't directly behind me. It was on the Savannah. But I did not realize it until it was more or less like right there behind the car next to me, kind of situation.
So when driving, you have to often glance at the rearview mirror to make sure that there's no emergency vehicle behind you, and you're not delaying them from.
One of the things is if you have your music on too loud, noise pollution, right? Like, because I didn't even have music on. I think it was just the AC on the morning. I couldn't hear that siren for the life of me coming from down the way. So I would have just been, if he was right behind me, I would have been completely oblivious until he was almost on top of me.
Yeah, and then we noticed that some person actually stopped when the emergency vehicle is behind them on the overtaking lane. They actually stop on the overtaking lane and go around me. You're supposed to move out anyway.
So this is the thing. I think the problem is a combination of things. Because I'm now going to ask you, I think the last time I was again on the Savannah, because, Diplomatic Center's right there. There are a couple of ministries right there, right? And there's the ambulances going to Port of Spain General. It's almost like if cars, because they don't reach you yet. So now the traffic is like, well, when they reach us, then we'll swerve out the way. Meanwhile, I'm there in the middle like, I can't swerve out of the way. Because I'm in the middle of all of you.
And so once you're in traffic, you just move out, you just slightly move out.
But I feel as though, like, part of it is people are worthless. And part of it is people don't necessarily know what to do. So some of it is like sometimes like me, like I am waiting to stop when everybody stops because I don't want to suddenly stop and then somebody hits or something like that, right? So when you're on the highway now, I think for them, they're not thinking, oh, it's more efficient if I go in the middle I think for them, they're like, oh, well, I pull off to the side because that's what I know, to pull off to the side.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So according to the act, you have to pull to the left.
Okay,
Yeah.
on the highways, this is a very particular thing. You're on the overtaking lane.
Yeah, you have
don't
to
pull to the right because you're basically still in the way.
There are a lot of people that actually stop on the overtaking lane.
Yeah, because I think part of it is they don't always know what to do.
Now, if there's a free flow of traffic, you must pull left.
Right.
But in traffic, you slightly move aside, and the ambulance or the emergency will go up the middle.
In the middle? Okay, okay.
So anybody who acquires their driver's permit the legal way would know that.
You want to know how many people acquire their driver's permit the legal way?
I
mean, theoretically speaking, the number is 0. Right?
Okay.
Right? Theoretically speaking, the number is 0.
Right.
Let me just say, that's why when we had the whole thing about, oh, you have to do a retest, that's why I said, oh, so you're giving the officers 2 bites of the apple, right?
Okay.
Because even now, I ask young people now, I was like, no, that's still a thing.
Okay.
It's still a thing, all now, so it might even be worse than it was before, right? So, look, that's all I'll say about that, right? It varies, of course, with regards to who does what, what is demanded of you, what do you offer. It varies, of course, right? Some things, I don't know how ridiculous it can get, but it is a thing, right? So to say, and I do wonder if on some level, if that also kind of undermines road safety.
Yeah, it does.
Because you're spending so much effort on trying to ensure that you get this thing done, right? As opposed to, rather than it just being a threshold to cross, as opposed to a process that you're supposed to properly experience and learn from. So it's like SEA. It's not about learning the subjects. At some point, it's about passing the exam, right? Because these are the kind of things with regards to, especially when there's an emergency, what to do in an accident, what to do in an emergency situation, right? It's one thing if, okay, I'm not entirely sure what the street side means or something mundane where you could take your time to figure it out.
I think drivers' education and even learning about the laws of Trinidad and Tobago should be taught in schools to some extent. Yeah, so like, you know, like how they had drivers' ed in some jurisdictions. It should start at a very early age. I'm talking about like 14, 15, where you're allowed to...
You know why that might be a good idea too? One of the things, doing a second degree, I hate online classes. Because I find the classroom discussion, even about just class things, like this assignment is due, so on, so it helps a lot. Because everybody asks a question, and you hear all the answers, right? And by having driver's education in a classroom setting, it's not just, this is the regulation. Now you can get everybody, so not everybody's going to ask a question, but the point is everybody's going to hear the answer.
Right, and the more experience you have at a young age in driving, it builds you and it matures you in experience as you get older. So, you know, that's one avenue. And then it should also be for like laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So that, you know, from a very young age, you know what the police is supposed to do. So when a police officer arrests me, what are they supposed to tell me? They're supposed to read their rights. How many people know that? So at least you should know what the officer needs to do when from a very young age.
But also, ironically, usually that's where it goes. But I think, and yes, there are situations where the officer might get the law wrong, the person might get the law right. But I think it's more, there are times when the member of the public gets the law wrong. And that's when it gets really bad. Because you have not only are you disobeying an officer in the moment, you have no justification on the back end.
It's like a speeding ticket. So you're caught speeding, they use the radar gun. They capture you speeding, right? On radar. And you know, some people like to fight the ticket then and there. They don't like to go before the court. Now, what should happen is that you should be given some type of information or evidence that this is your speed at that time. So that when you go before the court, you are well equipped with all the evidence that the police have, so that you could fight the case better. Not on the street with the officer and make a chaotic situation out of it. You know, you take a ticket and you go and you fight the ticket.
But again, it's the case of, no, well, I know my rights. Well, first of all, even in America, the laws of each city and state vary. And then we like to see things abroad as like, we have a different system of laws, people.
Because I've actually been on scenes of accidents as a police officer in Trinidad. And the claim of some of the parties is we're not leaving here because the police haven't arrived on the scene. And in Trinidad, it's not that's not the law. In Hollywood,
right,
California, yeah, that's the law. You can't leave the scene of accident.
Right.
But in Trinidad, so you're watching TV and the laws on TV telling you, hey, we just had a collision. We can't leave until our officer reaches.
Right.
That's perfect. That's correct in that jurisdiction. In Trinidad and Tobago, if you're involved in an accident, once permissible, once reasonable, and you can move the vehicle, it can move. It's not, not broken down. You go to the nearest police station. So you don't have to wait on the police to arrive on the scene. And what you see now, you see a collision, and in the middle of the roadway, they come out to attest to the accident. The accident has really happened. You know, somebody hit from behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no way to really address that accident there. You need to move out of the roadway.
Yes.
So that there's a free flow of passage.
That's one of the things, like, I understand there are certain situations, like, I remember a year or two ago on Colville Street, a maxi was basically shut down, and on the Savannah sometime after.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I understand. If you are by yourself, you ain't pushing no maxi out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're stuck around the Savannah, it's like there's not a lot of places you go. And he's on the left lane, right? You by himself is going to push the maxi all the way to the right, and then when the tow truck comes, like, it's a whole mess.
Yeah.
So there might be situations like that.
Right.
But when you and a vehicle accident...
we've come across accidents on Wrightson Road where two vehicles in a collision blocking the 3 lanes.
Right.
And they have to come out and have the argument, and they have to have the conversation, and then they have to exchange documents.
Yes,
and then proceed to the... If you can move out of the way, move out of the way, and then, you know...
This is not a drug bust where we're talking chain of evidence and the police and there's a dead body and you need police to take photos. You're a fender bender, move out of the way.
Move out of the way.
One of the other things too, and we could close with this because I just saw a video, it was in America, so yes, it's a different jurisdiction, but I think it feeds off of your point where you want to fight down the ticket anymore with the officer any moment, right?
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing with regards to officers, it's like you're kind of wasting their time if you're unnecessarily fighting things down like that, right?
Yeah.
Because this officer was trying to deal with somebody was upset about some situation, right? I won't get into it, it's not that important, but it was a personal thing that they felt entitled to make it the world's problem.
Yeah.
And the officer was like, look, it was basically the officer had something to respond to. It was either like a traffic accident or a car theft, right? So it's either a serious incident or a major crime.
Right.
I have to go respond to that.
Yeah.
I don't think this was a big city jurisdiction.
Right.
So the manpower might have been limited. And this person is just like shouting out in some public area, office building, whatever, and the officer is trying to look, you need to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, whatever, you feel wrong, forget all that. Right now you need to calm down. Because I cannot deal with you right now because I have something more important, objectively, to see about whatever. For the sake of this is not to bash people in this situation, but I think it was like a misgendering. So this person was so upset. It's like, listen, however upset you are, that does not trump the fact that someone might have a serious incident happen to them that affected their physical well-being. Correct? I need to see about that. You need to stop making a scene. And it was just taking away the officer's time and ability to respond to something that, I'm sorry, but if someone got carjacked or might have been in an accident, is technically more important. You don't need a police officer to seek redress in that situation, right? But and I guess the officer kind of got caught in the whole, well, this person is being, I don't know how more aggressive this person is going to be. Can I just leave the situation alone?
No.
Right? Because the aggression wasn't to the officer. The officer wasn't. Right?
So it's difficult.
Do I leave the situation alone and then this person snaps at a member of the public or what have you? It's like now it's a very odd, uncomfortable situation for the officer to kind of like, okay, by the numbers, what do I ignore? Right? This or a car theft, like which one do I ignore?
I've actually, and we're seeing like people arguing more a lot for the tickets. If you get a ticket for not producing the insurance, there's a procedure to address the ticket. Go online, document your explanation, and if you have the insurance, just file a copy, you know, most likely the case will get dismissed, you know, but
Right.
it doesn't mean you have to, you know, the officer did what he was supposed to do, or believe he was doing was correct. So you don't have to argue with him on the scene, you know, just follow the procedure, and most likely the situation will be resolved.
Because the other thing too is when they're giving you a ticket, he is there talking to you on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I don't know about other people, but just being on the shoulder on a
It's
highway
dangerous, yeah.
is not safe,
Yeah.
right?
And sometimes in the moment you can't find the ticket, the insurance.
Right, and you being in your car, you're not necessarily, yes, you're safer than the officer who is standing next to your car.
Yeah.
That don't mean you're in a safe situation where nothing bad can happen either,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
we've seen accidents happen like that.
all right, just one of those things, because look, I mean, not necessarily this morning, but in the papers in the last couple of weeks, they've had road fatalities. There was that young man, I think, the student, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? You know, things like that still keep happening.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where, look, you could debate on with regards to to what degree you could prevent murders.
Yeah.
But road traffic accidents,
It's preventable.
you know?
So if we could slow down, especially when rainfall, put on your hazard lights. You know?
Because fender benders, all right, fine, you're not going to be able to eliminate those.
Right. But we can eliminate
road fatalities, potentially
Yeah.
can be eliminated.
Yeah.
And why not? Dare I say, one of the things that the police should be publishing regularly is the fatality numbers.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine, you know, I mean, which are higher, the murder rate or the road fatalities?
The murder rate.
The murder rate. Okay, so at least we haven't gone,
Yeah.
we jumped the shark there. All right, folks, we'll end things there today. Thanks to ASP Arun for joining us once again. Yes, I expect a lot of people more than happy to continue celebrating the downfall of the evil empire known as Argentina by the rebel alliance of Spain, right? It is what it is. Please celebrate responsibly. I know I'm probably about 12 hours too late on that, but that also is what it is.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll be celebrating all week, you know. See you later.
Hold on. Just by the way, you don't have a Spain jersey, right?
Not yet.
So you weren't a Spain fan before this, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. We'll be celebrating all week. You know? Then you'll be like, yeah, I was born with Spain blood in my veins. Like, I don't understand.
I'm just glad somebody beat Argentina.
Wow. Who is your team? Let me...
Other than Trinidad and Tobago, I mean Cabo Verde.
Cabo Verde?
Yeah, I'm going to get a Cabo Verde jersey.
Really?
Yeah. Underdogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Don't mind that technically Spain, I think some people favored Spain to win this game. So Spain was not the underdog.
Okay.
Just saying.
All right.
Just saying. Just because they're repeats don't mean they were the favorites.
Okay.
Right? Just saying.
All is well in the world.
Wow. One of these haters. One of these haters. It would be understandable if you were a die-hard lifelong fan, and that's why you are like, yes, beat them. But you're like, no, I'm jumping on the bandwagon. See, typical Trini. Typical Trini.
Typical Trinidad.
Folks, this is Document WESN, right, where we only get on the bandwagon for the truth, not political biases. So with that, remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. Stay safe. Don't forget, it's nice to be nice. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Good to see you. Thanks for staying with us here at WESN. Well, our guest on this edition of the program, Mr. Kendrick Richardson, he's been here before. Somebody who, well, he made the news in the newspapers some time ago about a live